Bend Around the Wind by Skylia. Chapter 20, Ju and B, Part 1. Loki walked into the workshop to find Stark sitting with his forehead down on the workbench, practically oozing misery. "I'm almost afraid to ask," Loki said. "My wires suck," Stark replied. His voice was muffled a little bit because he did not raise his head to speak. "Want to elaborate?" Loki asked. Stark finally straightened up and gestured at the mess on his workbench. That's one thing that we finally managed to make armor out of the Allendor, but my suit needs more than just that. He started. Loki was more than satisfied by the blade he forged for himself, and while Stark's craftsmanship was a little crude, it was more than suitable. Loki spent quite some time engraving runes after his chestplate and vambraces were done. Then he made some random patterns as well. Stark was not one for decorative armor, so his design was plain and simple. At least the laser chisel, Stark insisted, was better than the traditional one, truly turned out to be better. Loki was quite satisfied with the serpent pattern he engraved on his vambraces. The chestplate was still needed work, but it was also ready to use. It was just tight enough and comfortable, and while it was not a color he was used to wear, the deep dark red metal looked fine enough. Stark did not work on anything else for Loki so far. He was busy with his own armor. "Yes, I am well aware," Loki nodded. "The alien tech on the ship is clashing with my original design. The Allendor is awesome, so I could start out with the Mark V design without having to worry about losing strength, which is great. But the power in the generators is messing everything up." Loki understood no real information about that explanation. He looked at all the tech on the workbench. "Explain the problem," he said. "You want to help?" Stark asked. "Just explain it in terms I can understand. Lose the technicalities." So Stark did. How he needed to power up the suit without having to rely on his reactor completely, because he could not make a replacement for it since he lacked the resources to recreate the element powering it. So he had to add a second power source to the suit. Then he explained how the energy in the generators that he successfully tapped into to power their forge and the rest of their workshop was behaving slightly different from normal electricity, and thus his wiring, the conductors, were not suitable. They were not able to conduct energy without burning up. The ones he used to bring power to the workshop were thick, large cables and could handle it. But his suit required thin wires and cables. It was a lot more delicate technology after all. His original design clashed with this type of energy, and he could not think of a way to incorporate a transformer in the suit, nor did he know what material could be used as a better conductor or how to strengthen the cables without making them considerably thicker. Loki looked at the small device Stark used to experiment with the energy coming from the generators. How the glow was a deeper but brighter color than the lightning blue in Stark's chest. It felt different as well. Loki managed to move forward with his exploration of the cosmic energies, not enough to harness them, but enough to be able to sense them properly. The energy coming from Stark's reactor felt different than the one coming from the generator. So the problem was fairly obvious. Conductor, something that transferred energy. He looked at the burnt wires Stark was clearly experimenting on before, and the new ones he didn't fry just yet. Obviously, he needed something better, more suitable to transfer or even store. I might just know something," he said, and walked away from the desk towards the other side of the cargo area to the crates. After all, this time, he knew where to look for what he needed. One of the boxes was open, so Loki just reached in and grabbed a fistful of the bullet shells, as they named it. He walked back and put them down. Stark eyed him curiously. "What do you want with those?" he asked. "You said they were glass," Loki said as he took one of the small cylinders to put it in Stark's energy experimenting device after turning it off for a moment. He did not know his name. Hey, that doesn't look like a good idea," Stark said when he saw what he was doing. Loki did not listen to him and continued. "Only they're not made of glass," he said, and turned on the device again when he was done. Stark instinctively jumped up from the table and took a step back. There was no sparks or explosions, though. "They're made of crystal." Stark and Loki both watched as the small cylinder started to glow from the energy transferred into it through the little machine until it was bright and pulsing with energy. How the hell did you know that? Loki frowned. You told me. What? When? Stark asked in confusion. Your theory about how these bullets can be filled up with energy. Stark still just frowned. Before we crashed on Key End, Loki clarified. Oh, I was kind of just babbling. It was not a sound theory. It was, if you consider that these, he picked up one of them, are made of crystal and not glass, like you assumed. Why is crystal such a difference? Stark asked. I mean, I suppose if I knew what kind of crystal it is, I would know. No, it's not about the type of the crystal, but its purity and perfection. Some are better for certain tasks than other types, but it is irrelevant in this case. These are obviously artificially grown crystals. No natural one has such a convenient shape. Loki told him. Crystals are widely used to store energy. I did not think of them being suitable to be used as weapons before you told me your theory about how they could be filled up with energy. Not all types of energy guns require such ammunition, though, that much is certain. Sorcerers usually store energy in crystals for other practices, scrying mainly. Crystal balls. Those are actually used by real magic users. Why, yes, naturally. Naturally. Stark repeated with that strange tone he had whenever he felt like magic was ruining his worldview or was just plainly offending him. It was an amusing tone. Okay, but if it's so good at storing energy, it helps me jack squat with my wiring problem. Although it's cool that we can make energy bullets. Think outside of your science box once in a while, Stark, Loki said. A crystal is good for storing energy, yes, he said and turned the device off again to take the crystal in hand. But only as long as they do not lose their perfection. He held up the glowing cylinder before Stark, then turned and threw it at the far wall, where it smashed and exploded in a bright flash of light. Very similar to the energy gun blasts, indeed. Don't make a hole in the ship, Stark scowled at him. Loki just smirked. So, if the crystal cracks, the energy bursts out of it, the human summarized. Yes, because it can no longer store it. If it's smashed to pieces, the already stored energy escapes out of it violently. This type of crystal seems to break easily, I assume, because it was meant to crack. How else would it be used as a weapon? Now, if we start out with an imperfect crystal to begin with... He picked up a piece of metal that looked like a wrench and started smashing the crystals on the workbench to bits. Stop smashing things, Stark complained once Loki crushed at least 3-4 crystals. It's a chaos god thing, isn't it? Loki chuckled as he dropped the wrench. Despite his complaining, he knew Stark was not actually annoyed. He did his fair share of smashing and cutting and burning in his workshop. He enjoyed chaos. Stark kept looking at him as Loki picked up a few larger pieces of crystal and started arranging them in a neat line, connecting them to the machine. At the end of the line, he put a perfect crystal. Then he turned on the device again. The broken crystals all flared up as the energy flow started. Then Loki turned the thing off again, and this time only the perfect one remained glowing. The rest darkened as soon as the energy was cut off. Stark was looking at the line of crystals. So if I, let's say, grind the crystal into small pieces, like dust almost, would it still do this? Yes. So I can, melt them into the wiring, or better cover the normal wiring with crystal dust? That sounds feasible, Loki agreed. Why couldn't I come up with this on my own? Stark asked, still looking at the crystals with his brows furrowed. You based it on my theory. Your theory was imperfect because you lack knowledge in sorcery and cosmic energies. Yeah, cosmic energies were kind of missing from my MIT education. I don't even know why it's not included in electrical engineering. I should have gone to Hogwarts, maybe. I would know how a crystal ball works then. I don't really know what you're talking about. Never mind, it just makes me feel uneducated, that's all. There's a new, unpleasant feeling. Stark started putting things in order on his workbench, throwing out pieces of wire that he surely planned to experiment on. The look on his face was sort of familiar. You are grasping not just basic concepts swiftly without any prior knowledge. It's more than I would have expected from a mortal. I am teaching you magical theories and cosmic knowledge sorcerers and mages have spent thousands of years exploring and perfecting. It's ridiculous to assume that something as new as Midgardian science could have ever prepared you for it. Was that an insult or praise? Stark asked. You tell me, Loki replied. The human looked at him for one long moment. Well, I guess probably nobody ever made a flying weaponized crystal-wired Alendor armor with DNI control system before. Loki huffed out a laugh. Oh, the ego of this man. No, nobody. Loki confirmed. Stark grinned. I'm using my lightweight armor design too, because the Alendor is strong enough to protect me even if I make it thinner than my normal gold titanium alloy. Sounds practical. I plan to have boots, fan braces, and a sort of chest armor, and it will just fold in on me into a full suit if I turn on the DNI command it. The idea came to me while I was making your stuff. Well, then I am looking forward to it, Loki told him. It would be a lot more suitable to have someone at his side with formidable weaponry and defense. I better get to work then. Not now. Why? Your displays started blinking on the bridge. We've arrived. Oh, good, the alien planet visit. He was a lot less excited than on the previous occasions. It was quite understandable. What's this? Loki asked as he stared at the sheet of paper maybe stuck to the wall next to the entrance of the Drake's dock. He was already in his new armor. His black leather pants and boots, light Alendor chestplate and van braces. He felt a lot more like himself this way, not to mention that he was less vulnerable, too. He enchanted his armor for energy absorption, besides making it more durable than normal Alendor. Energy guns would not make much damage on it this way. Loki felt very pleased about that. Those are the rules, Stark said as he approached. Loki looked the strange list over. Rules and regulations for planetary expeditions. 1. Don't go alone anywhere. Ever. 2. Always carry a gun. No, a blade is not enough as a weapon. 3. Don't pack more than you can carry. 4. Have sustenance for a minimum of 2 days. 5. Weather and atmosphere suitable clothing is mandatory. 6. Carry a basic medical kit. Loki read them through and didn't know whether he should be amused by Stark's list or offended that the rules were set up without him. So I have a gift for you, Stark said. Loki turned around in surprise. The human was standing right before him and his arms went around Loki's waist without warning. What are you doing? He asked in confusion. Then he felt that Stark was tying something around him, so he looked down. It was a belt, sort of. Modified. What is that for? He asked. That is a holster, Stark said as he fastened the belt. It hung loosely on Loki's hips, and the small straps on the right side were hanging down a little, like a little pocket or bag. And this is your gun. The human held up one of the smaller energy guns they found on the ship. It easily fitted in one hand, so it was probably meant to be used in such a way. Stark then reached out again and slid the gun into the holster. Again, Loki did not know whether to be insulted by Stark's behavior or pleased that he made a suitable gun holder for him without having to be asked. You gotta follow the rules. So also, he took a step back and turned around. Loki only just noticed that he had not just his usual bag, but a second with it too. Food, water, medkit, extra ammo. Next time, you pack for yourself, he said and pressed the bag in Loki's hands. I also added clothing to our shopping list, because I'm getting tired wearing exact same looking shirts every day. We should acquire some better crystals as well, Loki told him. You might need some for your armor to store extra power like you mentioned, and I can think of many ways I could use them as well. Sounds good, Stark agreed. Loki looked into the bag Stark shoved at him to know what exactly he had with him. I should probably carry some of my own healing supplies, he remarked. Feel free, Stark told him, like Loki was asking for permission, like he was the one deciding such things, like he could ever hope to order Loki around like this. The gall! You want to add anything to the rules? The human asked, oblivious to Loki's annoyance, or just completely ignoring it. He held out something that was probably used for writing. I left plenty of space for future rules. Loki took it and turned to the list to write 7. Stark is not allowed to choose which planet is to be visited. Stark started laughing when he read it while Loki headed back to their room for his own medical supplies. Maybe third time's the charm, Stark said as they were flying towards planet Woblar in the Drake. The planet itself was again mostly blue, but its terrain was more varied than just deserts or just forests. Its climate had to be as changeable as Midgard's.
Maybe this time we won't get in trouble.
Now we will, Loki grumbled.
Why?
Because you said that. Hey, no, it's not like that, Stark argued. You're the chaos god. If anyone, it's you who's attracting trouble with your godly aura and chaos vibes, or some stuff like that. No, you just jinxed it. Loki knew he sounded like a superstitious old hag, but he did not care. No, I did not. This time will be different. We will follow the rules, do everything right. Carefully. Stark said, I have a good feeling about this. There won't be any trouble. There was trouble.